Hey guys, welcome to Punk Rock Radar, where today we're taking on a task that's even harder than naming all of the furniture in an IKEA. Today we're going to be ranking all of the full-length albums by seminal, Swedish, skate punk, sweethearts, Millencolin. So let's hop on our decks and let's drop in.
All right, guys, welcome back to another tier list video. And as you can see, Matt is not here. He opted for a Mother's Day brunch over Millencolin today. You know, I can't really blame him. I want to say happy Mother's Day to any mothers who are watching this. I know I got my mom a bottle of white wine and dark chocolate, which is what she asked for. But I am joined by my good friend Lewis. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I didn't get my mom any wine or chocolates. We got her some flowers, hanging flowers for the house, so the house is going to look quite lovely. I just want it to be noted, though, I'm not choosing Millencolin over my mom. There's time in the day for both things, right? So we're gonna find space for everything. But yeah, really happy to be here. I got some big boots to fill for Matt as your regular co-host, but I'll try to do my best here.
All right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, after this, I'm going to make sure and call my mom, and then she's coming up in a couple weeks. So yeah, guys, take care of your mothers. Make sure you call her if you're not going to see her. But with that out of the way, let's get into this. We're starting off with Same Old Tunes, formerly known as Tiny Tunes. And Lewis, I'm curious where you're going to put this first Millencolin album from 94.
Yeah, I don't know what the consensus is about Millencolin fanship here, but, and you know, a lot of people have a lot of fond memories for the first album by a band. I don't have these feelings about this album. I think it's okay, listenable, not like a terrible album, but definitely not an album that I go back to very often for Millencolin. It's not even an album I think about when I think about the band. So this is, I know we're starting off on a negative note, but I'm going to go ahead and put this one in a D.
All right. Yeah. I'm kind of with you. Like, I used to like this album, like, you know, back in high school. I still think it's okay. Like, it's kind of like fast SoCal style punk. Like, I personally hear a lot of like Pennywise and Bad Religion influence, and I think that's like pretty absent on the later albums. But we were talking about this just before we started recording. I am really not a fan of Millencolin's ska songs at all, and I'm really glad that died off. But personally, I'm gonna put this in C. I think there might be a couple I like a little less than this. But so yeah, C feels right for me.
You can kind of hear some of the future Millencolin coming out of some of these songs too, which I think is, you know, that's the parts that I like about it too. So it's a D for me, but not like a terrible D, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely not awful, but we can both agree that they get much better. And I think that they start to get better on this next one. We're going to do Life on a Plate, which came out a year later. And I think this is leaps and bounds better than Same Old Tunes. We got Bullion, Olympic, Friends Till the End. This is on a lot of Millencolin fans' S tier, you know, which we found out when Matt said this was his favorite album, and we'll get to Matt's rankings later. I definitely disagree with this being their best album. For me, maybe it's 3 or 4. One thing I really don't like about this album is the background vocals. It kind of sounds like they're at the end of like a really long hallway. You could really hear that in Killer Crush and Story of My Life. But I mean, I'm okay with putting this in my A tier. I actually raised it up quite a bit after Matt's argument. I listened to it a lot the last couple of days, and I'm going to go A on Life on a Plate. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. It's a really, really good album and a definitely big step up. And based on Matt's feelings, I did go reevaluate it, and I think I had a lower opinion of it as well. Like, just because, you know, it's a long time. I haven't listened to this album probably seriously in maybe 10 years, I guess. I don't think I rank it quite as high as you. I think it has a lot of those good songs on it. I think it's got a lot of weird songs on it too that just don't really fit. And you mentioned some of the production quality things. I'm going to go ahead and put Life on a Plate on B tier for me.
Okay, that's fair. That's where I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then I think last night I ended up making the move and changing it up. But yeah,
I kind of wavered too. Yeah.
it's okay. It's a tough one to rank because this is really where we start to hear the beginnings of like modern Millencolin, I think. But up next we've got Four Monkeys, which Millencolin didn't shake that goofiness yet, obviously, and this is the first Millencolin album I had personally. I remember I downloaded the Monkey Boogie on Napster. Because why wouldn't you download a song called Monkey Boogie, right?
What a starter to a band. Yeah.
But like 22 and Losing Must, I think are some of the best Millencolin songs. They're both on here. Two heavy hitters for sure. And Lewis, I'm doing something different here. I'm only going to have one S tier. And if I had to, this would be there. But because I'm only doing one, I'm going to put Four Monkeys in my A tier. Next to Life on a Plate. What are you thinking?
I'm right there with you in the A tier. I think this is a way better album than Life on a Plate, so apologies to Life on a Plate fans. And I think it's because of those, specifically those two songs you mentioned are like S+ tier songs. Like Losing Must is like one of the best Millencolin songs. And I think overall this album feels a little bit more consistent to me than Life on a Plate. I don't know. And it's got a lot of variety on it too. Like we're kind of hearing a lot of different sounds in a Millencolin depending on the stage. Great album, and also I think one of the first ones that I owned as well. And I probably maybe got a copy from you. So I remember having this album really early and not really giving it much consideration then, but definitely an A tier album for me.
All right, cool. We're staying on the same page. And I think the next one is Melancholy Collection. I'm scrolling on Spotify and they have Pennybridge first, but I'm pretty sure this is 99. But this is an album, Lewis, we just decided to include about 20 minutes ago. And I think maybe the word I would describe this album is interesting, maybe interesting and maybe a little bit lackluster too. It's got a lot of the older Millencolin songs, a few covers. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I don't know. I've, like we were kind of talking about, I do some research sometimes just to kind of see what like the public thinks about these bands' albums and stuff. And a lot of people seem to regard this album pretty well. And it's probably because it's got that classic Millencolin feel. I don't really get it. I tried to listen to it 2 times through. I mean, sure, there's got a couple bright spots on here, but like the weird and bad covers really just kind of throw this one off for me. Like, I mean, the Knowledge cover is terrible, right? Like, I mean, it's just so bad. Normally I'm a big fan, and we talked about this on the Alkaline Trio thing of like if a band has songs that are hard to find, that they put out a compilation so they can make newer fans allow them to listen to it. This is one that probably, in my opinion, could have just stayed hidden. So I don't really get that much out of it. Maybe that's a hot take on early Millencolin, but yeah, I think I've already demonstrated I'm not a huge fan of that anyway. So yeah, it is definitely a D tier album for me.
I think I'm with you. Like part of the reasons like I was so receptive to adding this is because I needed another D tier album, and listening to Millencolin like ruin probably the best Operation Ivy song and the best Descendants song was enough to put this in the D tier. I mean, you know, like when you're first starting out, you record covers, but like some of that stuff, like Lewis said, it should just stay obscure. There's no reason to really put this out, in my opinion. There's not really any great songs on here.
There's no way. Like, I mean, I know musicians think they're the coolest and think everything they do is good, maybe. But there's no way they were listening to Knowledge in 1999 and going, the world needs to hear our cover of this song.
Dude, bands are still covering Knowledge like now, which I don't get it. I don't get it.
There are good covers of Knowledge. I think I prefer the Aquabats cover of Knowledge to this one. Like, a lot. And that's the one that's like a campfire song sung by Scouts. Yeah.
The Evergreen Terrace one's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, that one rocks. Yeah. That whole album's really good by Evergreen Terrace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes we just include these comps because we need a D tier, and that's the case here. But
somebody loves this album too. That's going to probably comment, and we apologize, but man, there's nothing there.
If you do love this album, just let us know why. I'd love to hear another opinion on it, because
that is true. Yeah.
I mean, I sure as hell don't hear it. But now on to, in my opinion, I think your opinion too, we have the clear best Millencolin album, which is Pennybridge Pioneers, released in 2000. No Cigar, Right About Now, Penguins and Polar Bears, probably my top 3 Millencolin songs. They're all in the first half of this record. Like, if you're looking for a starting point, like if you're not too familiar with Millencolin, I think this is the definitive one that you want to check out first. The only misstep is the ballad, which, Lewis, I'm sure you have something to say about, but this is going to be my only S tier. What about you, man? Where are you putting it?
This is a clear S for me as well. I think, obviously this album got real popular, I think, with Tony Hawk too, right? Because it was in there, and that's how a lot of people ended up finding about it. And like, what an album to accompany like your break, because this album is, like you said, from A to Z, fantastic. Like, even the silly songs are really good. Like Material Boy, Devil Me is a little silly, and it's still good. Like, every riff is good. And even the B-sides going down, like Highway Donkey is a really good song. Pepper's a good song. I mean, of course, we have to talk about the ballad, which is probably, I think, it's up there of the worst Millencolin songs. I've mentioned it, I think, on multiple podcasts that I've been a guest on, where we're just randomly talking about Millencolin with how bad this song is. And I never even know if it's a joke or if they were doing it to be funny or if it's tongue-in-cheek. I'm going to go ahead and assume that they meant to be serious, and once again go into that scenario in my head of like, this is the song we need to close this album. They should have just cut this from the album, and it would have been straight on ahead, like one of the best skate punk albums ever. But it is still, as it stands, with that little blemish at the end, it is fantastic. I'm S+++.
Yeah.
It is clearly the best Millencolin album. Sorry, I went on a little ramble there, but it is so good. I can't think of enough to say about this. This was a song that got me through like age 15, 16, man. We listen to this album all the time, so.
Yeah, and I want to say, you said A to Z, but I think we're both in agreement that it's probably A to Y. Because,
A to Y, yeah, that's a good.
Because of the ballad. But yeah, not enough good things to say about Pennybridge Pioneers. It's in my top 15, 20 punk albums of all time. It's that good. So if you, for some reason, are watching this video and you haven't listened to Pennybridge, go check it out. It's awesome. So after Pennybridge, the follow-up is going to be, that's like what I said, Melancholy was next on Spotify, but Home from Home is the next album here. Lewis, what do you think about this one?
This one, historically, I didn't really like this one when it first came out. I think it felt different than Pennybridge, And over the past few years, I've been giving this more of a listen and more of a reevaluation as I got along. And I really like the latter half of this album more than the first half, maybe. But I think that overall this album is fantastic. Like, standouts for me are Happiness for Dogs, I think is a really, really good song. Home from Home is good. Kemp is good. Botanic Mistress is one of their good silly songs. And then in the beginning of the album, I don't want to hate on it too much, because Fingers Crossed is like an awesome Millencolin song. This is A tier for me. I've reappraised it. I think probably if we had done this list in 2000 and whatever year it came out now, 2002, I probably would have said like C, but it really has grown in me over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I thought it was going to be C. I didn't bring it up to A, but I brought it up to B, but I'm a little different than you. I think I like the first half better, aside from Punk Rock Rebel, which is, and actually awesome. Montego is bad too. It's a definitive departure from like punk rock and skate punk Millencolin. I think this is where we start to get like the more rock forward version of Millencolin. One thing I will say, that it's pretty damn ballsy to use the same guitar riff on 2 songs, like Manor Mouse and Kemp. It's like the exact same chords and chord progression, like, and then they use it again later on a different album, but I'll talk about that.
Oh, I think Battery Check is like really similar to
Penguins and Polar Bears.
Polar Bears.
Yeah. I don't know if some of these are supposed to be B-sides or half-written songs that they turn into 2 songs or what. But yeah, they really start to recycle stuff around this point. But yeah, I'm going B for Home from Home. I put up a poll on Instagram because I was deciding between this one and the next one, Kingwood. I kind of had them pretty close, and Home from Home blew it out of the water. So I know people actually really like this album. So, we're showing it some respect. We got it in A and B. It's a decent album, but for me anyway, it's not top tier Millencolin, but it's a little close. But up next, we have the album we just talked about, Kingwood, which got absolutely wrecked by Home from Home. Personally, I think they're pretty close. One thing I want to say about this album is the production is like weird as hell on this. Some of the songs, like especially like Farewell My Hell, I think Simple Twist of Fate, they sound so muddy. Like it sounds like rough mixes. Like it's all over the place. But I mean, I'm curious if that was intentional or not. If anybody knows, put it in the comments. You got Birdie, you got Ray, you got Biff Tech, Supernova, some good songs. It's a lot like Home from Home, in my opinion, with the style. And that riff from Home is on Novo. If you're curious, again, the same exact riff on 3 songs. But I'm going C for Kingwood. Lewis, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put Kingwood in B. I think I'm going to rank it a little bit higher than you. I agree with pretty much your whole assessment. You said the muddiness, and I think you hear that even in Home from Home. I think it's like intentional. They must, I think they go for a distinct sound, but I think the strong songs in this album are amazing. Like Biff Tech Supernova, but with dumbest lyrics, but like I can never understand if the lyrics are deep or if I'm just silly. But Biff Tech Supernova is good. Ray is fantastic, and I actually really like Farewell My Hell. I think that's I think that's their best album starter besides No Cigar. Is my feeling on it. But and I think it's kind of interesting. This feels like Millencolin was trying to course correct from Home, kind of be a little bit. It felt, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but the way I remember the album, the way I listen to it, it feels a little bit heavier, a little bit more upbeat than Home from Home, a little bit faster. It felt like they were trying to get a little bit of that sound back. I don't know, but for me it's a B. I don't think it's quite as good as Home from Home, but a good album.
Yeah, I'm with you pretty much. I'm looking at our tier list and we're pretty similar. We've got nothing more than a tier away from each other, which is cool. I think most Millencolin fans have the early catalog high, and then it just kind of, dips a little bit with the exception of Pennybridge. But on to the next one, and I'm really curious about your opinions here. You already have 2 and D. Where are you going to put Machine 15?
Well, this is going to take the spot for my first C. It's really hard to rank this against like Same Old Tunes. Melancholy Collection I don't really like and I don't really go back to, but Same Old Tunes is a pretty good, okay listen. I think Machine 15, most of like the fan consensus that this is not a good album is correct. But I don't think it's a terrible album by any means. So I think it's kind of right in that average category of just trying something. It didn't really work, and then they kind of changed their sound again to address for it. I think there's some good songs on here, like let's see. I'm trying to think which one. I can't remember all the names on this one because I don't really listen to it that much. Vicious Circles, pretty annoying. Come On, I guess, was okay. Turnkey Paradise, I remember that one. It's a little hokey. I mean, I think the production quality and the songwriting's like okay. The production quality is pretty good. I'll say that. But otherwise, nothing really jumps out to me on this album that's really memorable, and probably one of the ones I go back to least often.
All right. Well, I mostly agree with you, but this is definitively a D for me. This is my least favorite Millencolin album. I think the only 2 good songs on here are going to be Detox, which is awesome.
Oh,
and
that's the song.
Yeah, that's a really good song. And I think Route 1 is okay, but some of these songs are just awful, in my opinion. Like you said, Vicious Cycle, Done Is Done, Come On. Like some of these songs are the absolute worst Millencolin songs I've ever heard. Like this is easy D tier for me. The most redeeming thing about this album is the album art, which is pretty cool.
It is cool.
And like we said, Detox is a really, really good song, but outside of that, not much there.
Yeah, I totally blanked on Detox, and these old eyes can't see the screen as well anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the standout track from the album. But like I said, I don't even listen to it often enough to categorize, like to remember. So yeah, it's okay. I don't think I'm as harsh on it as you. I think it's still better than that really rough early stuff. But yeah, the album art maybe kicks it up to C for me. That's a good point.
Yeah. And speaking of album art, the next one too, True Brew, I think has some good art as well.
Yeah.
And Lewis, where are you going to put True Brew? I'm curious about this one as well. So I'm going to have you take two in a row because I'm undecided here.
You know how I was, peek behind the curtain, but we talk about these things a little bit beforehand. Obviously, we're friends. And this album, I didn't really think much of it when it first came out. I bought it because I'm a dinosaur and I'm still buying my CDs, but with once in a while. This was like, this is 2015, right? So CDs weren't that weird to buy, right? So, I didn't really think much of it. But man, when we started talking about this, I was listening to this album again, and it definitely has some bad songs on it. I'm almost like an S, man.
Damn.
I really like this album. If I gotta have a hot take, and I guess I can, I'm gonna put this one as like an S minus. I really think this is a really good album, and if we're going by our personal list, this has a lot of really good songs on it that really stick out for me. And specifically ones like, I know it's hokey, but like Something I Would Die For is like a really good song, even though it's like a hokey love song. True Brew is really good. Bring Me Home rocks. Autopilot Mode is like one of the most different sounding Millencolin songs, I think. The really only song that I don't like really is Mr. Fake Believe. And I also like that there's a song about John Lennon on here, and it's funny because, you're John. So do you still believe in John? Do you still believe in love? I was thinking about you the whole time as I was listening to this track. So S minus for me, definitely sub Pennybridge, but very high on the list. So I've totally set the bar way too high for this one. So go ahead and destroy it right now.
Wow. I mean, I'm not going to destroy it, but like I was somewhere between B and D on this album. Like I did not see you putting it in S. Like I know we talked about it, and I know that you expressed some affinity towards it, but man, I did not see S, even S minus coming out of this. But what I will say is I must have not been the only person who hated Machine 15, because I feel like this is right back to Kingwood style overall. But I mean, the production on this is phenomenal. I'll say that. Like Egocentric Man, Sense and Sensibility, like the guitars, they really hit, the drums hit. Nothing bad to say about the production, but I'm noticing something problematic with my list is the lack of B's. But a little spoiler alert, I think I like SOS better than this one. So man, I'm gonna go C with True Brew. I just don't feel like it has any standout tracks. Like I think overall it's a decent album, but I just can't put it next to Home From Home. I'm definitely not putting it next to Four Monkeys and Life on a Plate. So I'm going to settle for the C tier on this one.
I know I went real high with this one, but I got to tell you, like, I don't think a Millencolin album really spoke to me. In my common parlance, it spoke to me. But I don't think an album like Millencolin really connected with me like this album again. And maybe it's just a timing thing, and maybe like in another few months I'll be like, oh, that was way too high of a ranking. But right now I was like, God damn, is this a good album? Like I know this is probably my hottest take here, but man, it rocks. I know there's people that don't like it, but I'm standing by my S right now.
I like it, man. I totally did not see that coming, so I'm all for it. And I kind of hear what you're saying with regards to the reasoning, because I kind of had the same feeling about the next one, SOS. I think this came out only a couple years ago. Yeah, 2019. And I was kind of, to use one of their terms from this, soured on Millencolin. Like I wasn't a big fan of the last few. And then I heard Like I said, Sour Days, Do You Want War? For Yesterday is really good. Like, in my opinion, this has some of the best songs Millencolin's written in the last 20 years. This is easily my favorite album of newer Millencolin, talking about post 2002. So I'm going to put SOS in my B tier right next to Home From Home, because I think that's a pretty comparable album in terms of song quality and the overall spread. Where are you putting SOS?
Can you go ahead and pull up my list again? I just want to see what my counts were, if you don't mind. Yeah, and I think I had put this a little bit lower, and I feel you on this one. I guess I haven't had a chance to connect with this album as much. I agree. I think Do You Want War is is a really good new modern Millencolin song. Mm-hmm. I guess this album just didn't really jump out to me. I think I'm gonna put this one I'm gonna put 3 Bs. I think it's a pretty strong album. Certainly better than Machine 15, but I definitely wouldn't put it higher than those other 2 that I've put in B. But I think Millencolin's definitely on track to keep making good music, and this is definitely a positive album. I think it is hopeful though that like since Machine 15, we've seen like sequentially like good albums coming out, right? So it's just gonna make you think that Millencolin's gonna continue to make pretty decent albums into the future. So
yeah, see. I'm with you. Like, I could, if I did 3B, I would probably bump up maybe Kingwood first and then True Brew. Like, I definitely think those are better than Same Old Tunes or Tiny Tunes. But, you know, for the sake of the list, and I like to have mine a little symmetrical going that way. But yeah, guys, these are our lists. And real quick before we go, Matt texted me his list, but this is before we decided on doing the comp. So let's just see. Matt has only one S like me, but I think you guys know it's Life on a Plate. He's been banging the drum for that one. He thinks it's better than Pennybridge. Lewis and I definitely disagree there, but you know, we've got it in A and B, so not too far off. Yeah. Then his A's are going to be Pennybridge and Kingwood, which is, you know, completely different than both of our A's. For B, he's got True Brew and Home From Home. All right, can't argue that. And then he's got, like you, he's got Machine 15 in C, but he's got SOS down there too. And here's the big shocker. D tier is going to be 4 Monkeys.
Ooh.
And Same Old Tunes. So I could definitely see what he's doing there with Same Old Tunes, but to have 4 Monkeys, with both you and I have it in A.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, what do I know? I have True Brew and S too. But.
I mean, dude, you got that badass bear screaming at you. That's got to bump it up slightly.
It is very compelling album cover. It is sweet. Well, yeah, I don't know. Matt, maybe Matt just doesn't. That I will say. I mean, 4 Monkeys. It's definitely more polished than Life on a Plate. But one thing I did mention was like it's kind of all over the place, right? Like there's a bunch of different styles there, so I could totally see it. But for me, like it had those really S tier songs that really kicked it up, you know? Yeah,
like without a doubt, 4 Monkeys has some turds on it, but I think there's enough. Like we said, Losing Must and 22 are definitely enough to propel it up for me. So, guys, that is going to do it for our Millencolin tier list. Next week, we've got Leftover Crack family of bands coming up, you know, which is going to be like IndieK, Morning Glory, Choking Victim, all the bands in that family. So make sure and check that out. If you like that video, if you like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe. We really appreciate it. It helps other punk rock fans find the content. Lewis, anything else you want to say before we wrap up Millencolin on this beautiful Mother's Day?
Well, you know, go out, give your mom a hug, maybe give her an album from our S tier as a gift. If you can still buy CDs in person, I'm sure she'd appreciate Pennybridge Pioneers on this yearly holiday. No, but seriously, a lot of fun. Let us know what you think. If my take on True Brew is totally wrong, I want to hear that as well. But thanks for having me, and I'm excited to come back and let's talk about that crack rock steady beat. It's going to be a good time.
All right, I'm pumped too. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the video. Thanks for watching and stay safe.